Tropical storm warnings are out for the coastline of Florida as Elsa draws closer. Hello, I'm Mike Nasa with a video update on Tropical Storm Elsa. Still not a hurricane. It never was able to vertically stack itself well enough to become a hurricane again, and it is almost making landfall. You can see there along the southern coastline of Cuba, and the Air Force Recon has been flying out there south of Cuba, getting us measurements showing it still has a very high barometric pressure for a tropical storm, but some strong gusty winds are headed towards the Cuban coastline with Elsa. We also have tropical storm warnings in effect for areas of Cuba, the Florida Keys, and storm surge watches. I'll talk about all that. Here's the latest as of 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Tropical Storm Elsa. Elsa was at 21.5 north, 81.2 west, winds of 65, so it's a moderate to strong tropical storm, moving northwest at 14, and that motion should bring it inland over western Cuba later today, and then by tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, very near the Dry Tortugas and the Florida Keys, and then by Wednesday morning making landfall somewhere in the general vicinity of the Big Bend of Florida. But again, it could be a little on the right-hand side here, more towards Sarasota. It could be on the left-hand side, more towards Apalachicola. Regardless, this system is very lopsided. So to the right of the center is where the most heavy rainfall and gusty winds will be. And we do have those tropical storm warnings. They're in effect from the Florida Keys, from Craig Key westward to the Dry Tortugas, and for the west coast of Florida from Flamingo northward to Suwannee River. Also, Cuba is included, obviously, in those tropical storm warnings. Tropical storm watch from Ocean Reef to Craig Key here in the Keys, as well as Florida Bay, and north of Suwannee River over to Indian Pass. You guys are in a tropical storm watch. That storm surge watch is from Bonita Beach to the Ochlockonee River, with the expectation of water rises as the circulation of Elsa draws closer. Again, it looks like it's going to move just enough over water to possibly strengthen a little bit, but right now the Hurricane Center does not forecast a hurricane, and there are no hurricane watches out. So we could hope that Elsa stays a tropical storm. It's looking more and more likely as time goes on. And here's why. You can see the center of Elsa is right in this area here, and all of the deep thunderstorms are on the right-hand side of the circulation, and that is not favorable for development. We have very little convection here over the Isle of Youth in western Cuba, and it doesn't seem to be vertically stacked. So in other words, when a hurricane develops and it rises up into the atmosphere, this one has a tilted circulation center off towards the east. So in other words, instead of being stacked like pancakes up into the atmosphere, it's kind of messed up and tilted, and it's not able to deepen the way a tropical cyclone normally would. And that's why, despite these bursts of deep convection, they're not over the center, but rather the center is slightly to the left here of that burst, and that is why it did not become a hurricane over the last 24 hours. Here's the radar out of Key West. You can see the center is pegged right in this area here, and it keeps trying to coil up, but again, it just can't do it. We saw the same problem with Isaac back in 2012, remember? Finally became a sloshy hurricane, and it kind of moved into the bayou wetlands of Louisiana. I'll tell you right now, had Isaac not had the same problem as Elsa with fast motion or vertically tilted circulations, it would have been a lot stronger hurricane. Nevertheless, you could see some heavy rain over Cuba and some thunderstorms here over the Florida Straits that will all be headed in the general direction of Key West over the next several hours. Here's a look at the wind shear map, and you can see not too bad over the circulation, but it's there. And it looks like the troughiness in the Gulf is going to not weaken it necessarily, but maybe keep it from becoming a hurricane. Again, if this were 1 month later, if this were August 5th, I think we'd be dealing with a hurricane and potentially a dangerous hurricane. But it's just still too early. Elsa moved too fast, and it's just not stacked enough to be able to become a significant storm. Thank goodness for the west coast of Florida, because you guys don't need it. And you're already going to get that storm surge potential. Look at this map. You're talking water rises 2 to 4 feet along areas from the Ochlockonee River all the way down to Bonita Beach. That includes Tampa Bay, 2 to 4 feet of water rises. And again, if the circulation drags in that right-hand motion, you'll get that onshore flow, and that's why you could have rough water rises over the next 24 to 48 hours. Also, rainfall. You can see some of these rain rates 4 to 6, 8, 10 inches, mostly to the right of the circulation. So again, if landfall is up here in the Big Bend, the right-hand side will have the heaviest rain. The key messages for Elsa, number 1, heavy rain will impact the Cayman Islands and Cuba today. Significant floodings and mudslides over Cuba. As Elsa approaches the Keys of Florida, the Florida Peninsula, and coastal Georgia through Wednesday, heavy rainfall could cause isolated flash urban and minor river flooding. Mid to late week, those rains will go across South Carolina and North Carolina, and we could have isolated flash and urban flooding. Number 2, tropical storm conditions and a dangerous storm surge expected across Cuba today. Number 3, conditions like that expected in the Florida Keys and along the Florida West Coast through Tuesday night. We have those warnings in effect. And the watch and storm surge watch for areas of western Florida and the Big Bend. That area is very susceptible to high storm surge, and they've been lucky. Hurricane Charlie in 2004 didn't bring a high surge. It was very small, and the angle of the coastline. And Hurricane Irma, the surge could have been much, much worse had it come in at a different angle. So even with a tropical storm, you could have those water rises there. And finally, number 4, there is a risk of tropical storm conditions along Georgia and the Carolinas into Wednesday and Thursday, and storm surge if the system drags along the coastline, bringing those conditions with it. We will keep a close eye on it and update you. So that's the latest on Tropical Storm Elsa. Again, a strong tropical storm about to make landfall in Cuba. Those tropical storm warnings in effect for Cuba and the Keys and the west coast of Florida. Be on the alert for rain, wind, and water rises. We'll keep you updated as Elsa approaches.